started reading about Muhammad because I loved Muhammad too, like more than a normal Muslim does these days. Started reading about him, uh, his biographies, and I came across issues that didn't resonate. Even though I had studied Islam, Islam was taught to me 4 to 5 hours a day all my life before that, from the age of 7 to 17. In 10 years, nobody in any education, either madrasa, school, informal, formal, any education had told me that Muhammad had had sex with women without marriage, that Muhammad had owned women as his properties, women who were gifted to him from different kings and governors around the world. He kept them as his slaves. That was one of the first questions, slavery. Then you come across the thing where Muhammad had actually owned other human beings for his pleasure, for his sexual gratitude. He even had a son from one of his laundries, his concubines, sexual slaves. That was a massive thing for me. Him ordering killings. I thought Muhammad was a peaceful man. All my childhood, we were told he was a peaceful man, but little did I know, like all the independent research into Muhammad was telling me something completely different from what I had been taught throughout my education years. Quran just coming down on his convenience. For example, Muhammad's taking a fifth wife, and he's telling a majma, his congregation, let's say, I'm taking a fifth wife. And all the Arabs around his companion goes, oh, we're only allowed 4. Why are you taking 5? Moment of convenience, Jibreel comes right that minute. That is typical cultish leader behavior. That's what a cult leader does. You can have different set of rules for yourself, but your followers can't do that for your own gratification. And then I thought, okay, I'm gonna get this much from my father in Sharia. So I'm 2 parts. My sister is 1 part. Why? She might be a better human than I am. She might be a better daughter, a better kid to my father than I am. Why is she getting half? Why is my sister's testimony half the worth of mine? As far as I know, she's more intelligent than I am. So all of these questions just started coming in, and then I knew Muhammad wasn't perfect. And for me, for a fundamentalist like me, if Muhammad wasn't perfect, Islam wasn't perfect. I did pose the question about Muhammad's sexual slaves in my mosque, which led to an uproar in my mosque. So my father's cousin, elder cousin, was a trustee of the mosque. He was also the chairman of the mosque. I asked the question, got shut down really aggressively, sent home from the mosque. Then my father got called into the mosque, and they told my father, your son is asking wrong type of questions. And my father was really angry at me. There was only one way of life, Islam. You have to be Muslim. But after coming to London, the exposure I got from different types of lifestyles and cultures and religions even, that was eye-opening. I thought, okay, Islam isn't the only way. Western society isn't what we're told in Pakistan. They're not immoral. The morality I found Western morality to be, in practice, to be the better than Pakistani. There's a lot of leg pulling. Nobody's happy if somebody else progress in their life. So jealousy, envy, and everything. I had seen that all my life. But coming here, people are actually happy. They don't care what you believe in. They really don't care about your religion, your personal ideology, and they're still being really good human beings. Islam meant everything to me. Leaving Islam meant I didn't know what to do with my life anymore. So my relationship with myself was affected the most, because there was still some part within me, even though I believed it all to be bullshit. I believed like Muhammad had never been perfect. The Quran's infallibility, which we haven't discussed, but there was, when I looked into Quran, the so-called scientific miracles, they didn't make any sense either. So there was a constant struggle of identity, of myself. Okay, what am I doing? Am I being traitor to myself and my society and my parents for leaving Islam? So identity and existential crisis that pushed me into deep depression and isolation. Came across Hitchens one day, and Hitchens, I was offended. Like, I was like, wow, how can this guy say this, so much of this stuff, which actually makes sense, and nobody's going up and stabbing him? No longer otherization of other people, like just saying because you're different in the way you believe in God, or because your God is different from Allah, you're hellbound. Or believing in the Quranic verse of Yehud and Nasar can't be your friend, Christian and Jews can't be your friend. And polytheism were idol worshippers. They were already non-human to Muslims. Letting go of that notion, it helped me to create better social ties, better friends, because the intrusiveness and judgment that comes with being a Muslim, that wasn't there anymore. So respecting people, actually, no matter what they believe in, that was a massive, massive thing that came from living Islam. A child is born in a Muslim family. What's the first thing that goes in his ear? Azan and Shahada, Fajr Azan and Shahada, something like that. And then parents take pride in if the children's first word is Bismillah and not mother or father. The first thing they teach them to say Bismillah. Then the first thing they teach them Fatiha. So Quran is very systematically instilled into children. Children are indoctrinated into it. Hey, I was told phrases like, oh, it's so philosophical, it won't make sense to you unless you ask somebody to explain it to you. So that notion of it being so complicated that a normal human mind can't understand it, that you always have to consult a scholar or read a tafsir, which was written 200 years after Muhammad's death. You taking away the curiosity of a children's mind, because and as Neil deGrasse Tyson says, children are the best scientists we have, because they ask the question of why. And most Muslim children sooner or later would ask the question of why, but they are shut down on that. That they are told, oh, you can't question. The Quran itself says it's infallible. You have to believe that. Why do you have to believe that? Because Allah says so. Why does Allah say so? Because it's in Quran. And then that claim that Quran's not going to be changed, that it's in the same shape and form which like it was when it was descended supposedly, which it isn't. The first written down copy of Quran in this chronological order is by Usman. So in Muhammad's lifetime, nobody bothered in actually putting the Quran in writing form. They'd write it on leaves or some things, but it wasn't in an order. And this order doesn't make any sense anyways, but nobody's told to question that. That discouragement that comes from parents, teachers, schools, madrasas, everybody's constantly discouraging kids to question Quran. So Islam calls itself, Islam says if you leave Islam, you're committing treason. And then that mentality goes into communities and cultures, whichever culture's been conquered by Islam, essentially, because Islam eats up the cultures and it just gives you an Islamic culture. Allowing Sharia courts to exist in Britain, that's not secular. It's far from it. Why are Sharia courts operating in Britain for civil matters? Divorcing is easy for men because you can say 3 times, but women has to go through Sharia court, which take a year, and they're constantly. That's not secularism. That's not even liberal. Liberal thought was founded upon blasphemy. Why are you protecting Islam against blasphemy in the West? Aren't you actually turning your back on the very liberal thought you take pride in? If these countries take pride in being liberal democracies, but somehow allow some other diaspora communities to bring in their draconian laws with them. Yeah, I don't want to misrepresent. Sharia courts are civil, they can't prosecute you, but the mentality is still there. The mentality of communities thinking is treason if you leave Islam, will disown you, is still there. That's because you've allowed them to essentially be a different culture within a country. Why aren't human rights applied universally throughout the Western world? They're not. Muslims are using completely different set of rules for themselves. And they're demanding, like, Islamophobia is essentially, like, now we see in Britain political parties accepting the definition of Islamophobia. That's protecting Islam against blasphemy. Why is blasphemy against Christianity is okay, but against Islam, it's a problem? Why does Islam get a special status in Western countries? It shouldn't. So Western countries has failed when they accepted, when they implemented multiculturalism as a social policy. The capital punishments around the world for leaving Islam need to go, because we see our kin suffering around the world. We see in Pakistan, where I'm from, there's 40 people on death row right now for criticizing Islam. So it's important to show solidarity with people who are suffering, who are being discriminated against, who are being hunted down, who have the real fear of their life. So when you leave Islam and you've admitted to yourself you've left Islam, there's a lot of anger in you, because you feel like you've been lied to all of your life. You've been oppressed where you can't do most of the natural things that human body or human anatomy desires, because they are sin. If your mother tells you that you're not my son anymore because you're not Muslim, of course you're going to be angry. She's biologically programmed to love you, but because you choose to leave her ideology, she's ready to disown you, you are going to be angry.